Hey guys, filming this after the fact so that I had a little time to test this out, and I'm glad to report that what I'm about to do here actually does work really well, even in a somewhat long term. It's been about a week now driving around on it, and I haven't noticed any issues. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm making bigger carb jets, and my goal, personally, my specific goal is I'm going from a 66 carb jet that was factory in there, and that's a little big for my stock engine, so I'm actually wanting to go down, and what I end up setting on is about a 63, but the only other jet I actually had was a 52, and that was way too small. Thing could barely run unless it had the full choke on. So the video is going to start essentially after that first test drive where I'm boring out and increasing the size of the 52s that I had in there. So basically what I wanted to do was change my carb jet size without having the proper carb jet size or jetting kit. And I just essentially did that with a much smaller jet than what I needed, and I used a welding tip cleaner set to make them bigger.
Once you get the distributor out of the way, it's really easy to remove these jets. They be little bitty holes. Just a little quick check in the hole. You want to make sure the thing's not super jagged and fucked up on either side, and you want to make sure you blow it out with an air compressor, because even those tiny skinny little pieces of brass will hurt things. Yeah, I ended up drilling it out, or filing it out to the point where a 16th file and a 16th drill bit fit through. Now, 1/16 in decimal form is 0.0625. So essentially I decreased the size from factory down to 3.5 thousandths less than it was. It was originally equipped with a number 66 injector, which is 0.066, and it is now 0.0625, so it's essentially a 62 or a 63. I think that's a more reasonable jump than a 52, so it's up 10 from what it was and down 4 from what it originally was. That seems more reasonable, and now I'm going to go ahead and see how this performs, and hopefully this didn't mess up the fuel flow too much doing this by hand. The viewers of this channel are so very kind to the folks that let them borrow tools. We're going to go ahead and put this right back where it goes, close it up, and put it away. You're welcome, Dave. I'm just going to go ahead and put that fuel bowl and metering block back on. I already got 2 bolts kind of lined up. Now this is most definitely me complaining, but does anybody who knows carburetors know of any easier way to put that metering block back on with this little fuel tube right there? That little tube right there, it's got it's just barely seating in there, and I always have to keep coming back and adjusting it, moving it and adjusting it while I tighten those 4 bolts on the other side. Is there a special way to do this, or am I doing it the hard way, or is this just the way it goes and I'm complaining? I don't know. Somebody let me know. Little tip I do know has helped me is this doesn't actually matter, but once you've got your distributor installed and you got the firing order, label the plugs and the distributor, so that way when you got to unplug these things to get access to your carburetor, because on the Fords it's in front of the carburetor, but I still think that's better than on the Chevys having it behind everything, whatever. Anyways, when you do have to pop this cap and rotor off over and over again, it does help to have everything labeled, so that way you don't got to trace it back to the freaking spark plug all the way back up to here, Just makes things a little quicker and easier when you got to pull things on and off over and over again, like for when you're jetting things. Alright, let's take it for a test drive. Well, so far in park, fuel pressure's staying steady and everything's, fine. And I don't see any fuel squirting out all over the place, so I say we're good. Okay, that already feels normal again. Vacuum's about the same. We're about to hit this hill where it died last time, so let's see. never be gasoline mixing with my oil. That's not a good combination. Regardless of whether they're both petroleum products, they don't like to mix very well. Gasoline is a solvent, oil is a lubricant. So I need to make sure that those things stay separate, and I think that it's probably to do with the fact that I have two large jets. Dave is always mentioning how this thing stinks like gasoline no matter where I drive, and that shouldn't be the case, even though it's a stinky old carbureted truck. The primary reason behind me changing these carburetor jets is to reduce the amount of fuel going into the combustion chamber, ideally reducing the rich tendency of the mixture, air-fuel mixture that I have. You can do that with the idle screws on a carburetor, but note that the idle screws are only controlling your idle circuit. These jets are basically the vacuum is pulling the fuel through when the engine's at like more than idle, essentially. So you'll get into what's called your transfer slots in your carburetor. Once the throttle blades pass a certain point, it opens up these two little holes. Those two little holes are what your jets are pulling the fuel through. You also have your accelerator pump to kind of bolster the fuel between the idle circuit and the transfer slots. So basically, I got both of those things dialed in. The only thing that I didn't have dialed in was the actual jets. I was idling with great vacuum. It was running great, but when I was really romping on it, it was like, dude, something's wrong here. It's not running right. It had plenty of air. In fact, if anything, it's got too much air, which is very possibly the issue, is that I'm running a 650 on a stock 351 Windsor. I don't know the math behind that, but it was just based off of a recommendation. So it very well could be that was a bad recommendation. I didn't really think about it too much. So I'm just admitting my ignorance here. But I can't really go back in time. All I can do is go forward in time. And unfortunately, at this current point in time, I have no money. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 52 size jet, bore it out into a 62, which is what I did. And it worked, which is great. I don't think I'm dumb, but I'm also not a genius. Let's not tell Dave that I locked the gate like this. It does look a little lean, honestly, but I will say I can probably fix that with my idle mixture screws, because I don't believe the idle circuit is cut out when I'm on the throttle. So that'll add a little more fuel to this mixture, but other than that, I think this thing is healthy. Alright, well, real quick, I'm just gonna tweak the idle screws to accommodate for that slight lack of fuel that I'm now getting through the main jets, just to keep it a little more rich than it is lean, because I'm just scared I'm gonna, overheat it or something, having too lean of a mixture. My thinking here is that the reason the carb came with the 66, or maybe it was even 68, I don't know, it's kind of hard to read the stamp. I want to say it was 66. The reason it came with those jets, I believe, is because they're probably assuming when you